Allison, what are some things that counselors need to consider when they're looking at adding insurance to their practice?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question because I think that you have to have a really solid plan if you're going to take insurance. I think the first thing you need to think about is setting up really clear processes for the whole, system kind of start to finish. So we often think about, well, of course, when the person comes for the first appointment, we're going to collect the insurance information and then we're going to start billing. But then you're going to be, billing throughout that person's treatment. Things might change. You might encounter problems. So you have to be thinking about how do you create really streamlined, efficient systems so that you're not spending tons of administrative time dealing with insurance problems. So I think that's one really important thing. Another really important thing is
I want to ask you about that streamlined, efficient system. So you've been able to scale really quickly. How important is it to kind of set those things up on the front end so you don't have to go back and undo things that maybe you bootstrapped at the beginning?
Yeah, so that is huge as far as, it seems to me like doing it from the beginning and making sure you're getting all the pieces in place at the start saves you time, because if you have to fix it on the back end, it seems like it always takes 3 times as long.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell my clinicians, like, if you need to ask me a question because you're not sure, ask me before you do it rather than wait until there's a problem and then we have to go back and fix a bunch of issues.
Yeah. So what else should you consider before adding insurance to your practice?
I think the other thing you have to think about too is like what system or what person is going to be handling these things for you. I know when I first started out, I was the person who was calling the insurance company when there was a problem. I was the person doing the billing. And obviously that wasn't practical as we got bigger. And so I hired a VA, which has been huge because I think if I was still doing that, I would be pulling my hair out.
Well, and the more you scale, it just seems like it just expounds where you're just like, I'm spending so much dang time on this. Like, why am I spending my time on this?
Yes. And so like having her to be able to say, hey, Colleen, can you check and see what happened to this person's insurance claim? So she's the one who's on hold for half an hour before she actually talks to a person or whatever the issue is really huge. And I think that, that's really like a must for me to have somebody who's helping with those things.
And how did you find your VA?
So she was actually a stay-at-home mom who was local to me, and she just wanted to, have a little part-time job, but still be at home with her kids. So she has a bachelor's degree in English, I think, or journalism maybe. So she's also an excellent writer, which is really nice. So she does a lot of writing for me too.
I always love finding people that it's like you're hiring the person, not the role. Where so like Sam, who does a lot of my marketing stuff, she started with just making images for Instagram and Twitter, and then she started making infographics, and then she started handling the writers within kind of our blog, and then like now she's learning video, and so it's really when you can find someone that can grow a role, that's so important to go like find those people that are competent beyond just kind of that one reason you're hiring them.
Yeah, she's amazing.
We should do a whole webinar on outsourcing and virtual assistants, I think.
We should. We should.
I should have a sheet of paper. I'm going to write that down. So VAs. So tell me, what else do people need to consider before adding insurance to their practice?
I think one really important thing is like you need to educate yourself about how insurance works, because so many people, clinicians and your clients, don't understand how insurance works. They don't understand what's the difference between a copay and a deductible, or what happens when they meet their deductible, or, when I get this EOB form back from the insurance company, how do I make sense of it? Like all of those kinds of things that come along with, insurance has its own like lingo, and you kind of have to learn. And then there's also a lot of, little caveats and things that you kind of learn along the way. Like Blue Cross Blue Shield may do their own benefits, but Blue Cross Blue Shield in another state may carve out their mental health benefits to someone else. So it's like these things that you just sort of have to learn as you go along and pay attention to, so that you're really clear about, like, as the provider, like, what should I be collecting, or how does this work, or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So other than your free 5-day email course, are there other resources out there that can help people learn that?
I always go back to, talk to your colleagues who are in private practice in your area, because if they're billing insurance, they probably know a lot of those little detail things. And, unfortunately, some of it's just like trial and error. Like I didn't realize, in Pennsylvania, our state employees have Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they carve out to United Behavioral Health for their mental health benefits. And so that's just something that's like I learned from getting burned by it.
Learn from getting burned.
Yes. So some of those things are just, as you go along, you pick them up along the way.
Yeah. And I mentioned your email course. Anyone that hasn't done that, and maybe we can drop this in the chat area, you can get that at www.practiceofthepractice.com/insurance. It's awesome. Allison's put together videos on how to fill out, what was the form, the red and white form that you showed?
Yeah, the HCFA 1500 claim form.
The old HCFA 1500 claim form. Well, and something that's changed for me, we have a 100% private pay practice here. We're actually adding a psychiatrist here, and that takes insurance. And what's really interesting about that model is he's keeping his own company and all the insurance is going through that, but we're providing the space, the marketing, and the kind of initial point of contact that then passes off kind of all that to the biller to get the EOBs and all that. So I'm having to at least learn some of that terminology to teach Emily how to even answer a phone call about insurance, because we haven't done that before.
Mm-hmm.